let Kane introduce himself as well.
So first of all, I think our goal today is to have fun. I know we already kind of talking about the impact of the pandemic on our kids and our family, and everything that we've seen since February of last year. Just a little bit about my background. I've been in consulting and outsourcing for about 25 years. Started my career at Accenture and worked with many different organizations. Now I'm here at UHY as the National Practice Leader for Client Accounting and Advisory Services. And so really what we are doing is we're partnering with our clients to help support them, especially during this pandemic, which has been very difficult. And we'll get into a little bit more as we move forward. Just from an agenda perspective, I always prefer to be in person. I'm sure you guys do. I see a lot of you are at home. So we're going to try to make it think like we're all in the same room and we're interacting, because I know a key part is not only to learn about what we're presenting today, but to collaborate and to share ideas, to share thoughts, and to really leave an hour and a half from now smarter than we were before. So some of the key things that we're going to talk about, of course, is specific around the pandemic pivot. We will have 3 breakout sessions. So one on people, the impact of people with the pandemic since February of 2020. We'll also have a breakout session on process. So how has the process changed for your organization or for some of your clients or suppliers, and how has that impacted your business? And then we'll talk about technology. I mean, Zoom as a prime example. I think some of this is using Zoom or using Skype or Teams, and how is that impacting you, but also the technology around running your organization, specifically to back office. When you think about accounting, as we're all part of FEI, is how have you guys deployed automation? What kind of tools have you looked at? Have you had to make changes to your organization where there are periods of time where employees no longer can come into a physical location and to do the work? So there's a lot of different things that have happened, and we've seen specifically. And I'll share kind of some stories that I've seen, but I'd love to, as we kind of continue during this dialogue of the next hour and a half, I'd like for you guys to share some of your stories as well. So let's buckle up. Let's have fun. I guess somebody wanted me to dance. I don't know if I'll do that. If you stay to at the end of maybe I'll do a little bit of dancing, but no, I'm just kidding. But I'd love to see you guys smile, and let's go right in and have some fun. So COVID, you probably have heard of the pandemic, pivot and what is happening. We have here at UHY, as of February, I think even the last week in February, March, kind of everything stopped. I think you may have remembered that. I remember that day, my last day in the office. I went home and I knew that I didn't know when I was going to go back into the office. And even more so, what does that mean to us? How is business going to continue? What are we going to do about it? And it was kind of a scary point. I don't know about you guys remember that time. I remember you guys have to wash groceries and all the new things that we changed, and is it safe to go outside, and all those questions that we have kind of adapted to over the period of time. But when you think about it from an organizational perspective, there were a lot of big decisions that had to be made for small businesses, medium businesses, or even large, to that fact. You had challenges with employees that had to be quarantined. You had challenges with employees that had a parent that got sick. You had challenges with daughters or sons that needed support. You had challenges with, you had your 2 dogs that wanted to sit on your lap and be with you all day when you're trying to work. So the staffing issue, and we'll talk about that more with Stephanie, became a big issue. And then when you think about it, how do you process checks? I mean, if you are an organization and you're doing physical checks, you can't bring somebody back in the office to pay your suppliers. So what do you do about that? You have a whole process that you set up over the years, but the process is manual. If you're getting approvals of invoices, you're walking to a desk or walking to an office and you're getting sign-offs, you're talking to people about certain questions. So the technology really wasn't conducive for the time for a lot of the small businesses here in Michigan. And we've seen a lot of them that were really challenged where they had disparate systems. They had systems that were not conducive to a remote working environment. And we'll get into that conversation shortly. And then there's, the reporting, the aspect of financial statements. A lot of small companies here were not timely and accurate with their financial statements. Now they have to run cash flow. They need to know where they are. I mean, if you look at the leisure and the restaurant space specifically, and then you get into PPP and everything else that came with that, but how how are they going to survive? How are they going to project where they're going to be in 2 months? Can they keep their staff on, can they keep everybody on their staff on the payroll? What do they need to do? So all these things kind of came together, very quickly, and organizations had to make decisions, what they need to do to move forward. And, you think about 22 million people lost their job back in February, March of 2020. And about 10 million of those jobs have bounced back, but there's still a lot of unfortunate individuals out there that are still trying to find a job and how they're going to work and survive. Another thing that was interesting to just some statistics is that they're saying that about 37% of the US jobs today may go 100% remote. So I guess we'll have to see as we kind of get through 2021 where we go. Just some statistics just to show, you're looking at a graph here, and what you're seeing is the red bar graph is the employers. The employees are in black, and what it's showing going back around January 2021 is indicating as employers are actually coming back physically into the office, not necessarily all the employees, but maybe the senior management or the executive leadership, and then where it's going to go from an employee perspective. So I know there's a lot of our colleagues and friends that don't work with UHY here that they're not even going to go back in the office until the end of the year at the soonest. So there's going to be a lot of discussions of what that means from a real estate perspective, what it means from a work environment perspective, and governance too, where in cases in the past, you can bring a bunch of people together and have a conversation and collaborate together. And going remotely as we're all on Zoom now again is changing the collaboration just with FEI. I remember going to all those meetings in person and having a presentation, have a networking event, and having those conversations that would help build relationships and trust. So a lot of things are happening. Another statistic just to want to share with everybody is, what is the future? If you look at, Facebook and some of the large organizations that may go 100% virtual. If you think about, the top 25% are potentially going to stay remote, as an example. What we're hearing as we talk to our clients, that there'll be kind of a hybrid approach between a combination of maybe somebody comes to the office twice a week and then spends 3 days at home, or vice versa. But I think a lot of organizations are really trying to determine what the future will be as we kind of move forward with everything. So I just thought there's some interesting statistics to share with all of you. Some interesting industry trends, and myself joining UHY back in July of 2019 as part of our department. Growth was pretty substantial even before 2020, where there was a need for CPA firms specifically to grow nationally, and you see the statistics for 30%. And what does that mean? We're not talking necessarily just tax and audit, but accounting solutions, outsourcing, staffing solutions, everything that an accounting firm provides. And just to show you a number, we grew 2,500% last year. And you may ask that question, why? Well, I think a lot about what we talked about, there's a lot of organizations out there that have needed the help, the 911 calls and just the need of how to transform their organization in very quick moment of time. We've seen a lot of organizations before. You ask, well, why are you making the decision to make a change now? It's because they have to. And why didn't they make it in the past? Because it wasn't something that was that important to them. But just some statistics to share is, we've added, on our team about 25 new staff members in the last 6 months. Stephanie will kind of talk about placements too, where temporary staffing, IT, migrations. There's just a lot of work, which is unfortunately been for a lot of organizations very difficult. But I think for the accounting firms, I'm just speaking for myself, and I'm on some panels with some other firms here locally and nationally. They're seeing the same type of growth happening in the accounting firms today because of that need. I think a lot of it comes down to PPP. I'm sure all of you on this call probably have dealt with that to a certain extent. And do I qualify? How do I qualify? What are the application process for it? Now there's a second one coming around. So there's a lot of, even with the taxes and the rules and the pushing of the tax dates and things like that. But there has to be a lot of things that have had to adapt to the new environment and have caused a little bit of chaos. And last year was kind of a crazy year, for me personally, and I know I'm sure a lot of you on this call is, how do we kind of get to back of a new normal normalcy, and not just on the business front, but on the personal level too. So it's just some interesting statistics. I don't know, Stephanie, you wanted to add anything else on the stats or trends that you see here?
No, I think that's pretty much consistent with even just going into 2021. The new year, I think, is continuing to, if not be even busier with the needs and the demands that we're seeing. So I expect those trends to be similar, in this coming year and going forward.
Yeah, just maybe a question out to the panel, everybody, and I want to make this interactive. So please, I don't think Stephanie and I just want to talk for an hour and a half. So I'm curious, are you guys with your businesses, are you seeing that type of growth in where you are too, or just love to hear anybody if want to just kind of share some of their thoughts of what they've seen today in the environment that you live in?
Yeah, this is Chris Hickman, BDO audit partner. Yeah, definitely a lot of uptick, I think, with the PPP loans and the complexities around the Jobs Act. So a lot of tax growth. From an audit perspective, I think a lot of people are staying in place in terms of with their service providers. We have seen some, proposal activity, but not the normal, I guess, is what I would typically see. And I kind of chalk that up to, I think our clients or people out in the marketplace are really just busy with COVID and managing their business. And right now, this isn't the time to do a service change, right? So outside of that, though, but from a tax perspective, I think there's a tremendous amount of growth, and the same with advisory as well.
Yeah, no, great. Anybody in the industry, I'd love to hear. I know on the service side, I agree, Chris, kind of the same thing that you just said as we have. Anybody within the industry what are you seeing on that side? If anybody wants to share any other thoughts on that.
Kane, my name is Nick Stavropoulos, and I'm with Allcom, and we're a managed service provider for IT, and we are seeing a huge uptick in people sending out RFPs related to utilizing their IT properly. So the trends that you talked about earlier, we're fortunate that all of our customers were already in a mobile first environment. So they were all able to just transition to home right away. And frankly, we're looking at new office space right now, and we're looking at a huge reduction in the amount of space that we need going forward at the end of this year. So it's consistent with what you're seeing. Yes.
Yeah, just maybe asking if that's a great point. What are some of the challenges that you've seen with your clients? Or, I would imagine they have a pretty high expectation. They want to be deployed in days. Maybe kind of talk about what you saw, what are the challenges the clients are coming to you with, and what you're doing to help support them.
So some of the big challenges, that they're facing are, they're making decisions about whether or not they need to hire a full-time IT person. And when you look at all the criteria that really need to be there to cover IT well, you need a team. One person really can't do it all themselves. And so that's the big challenge, is how do we get to where we need to be as it relates to our business objectives? How do we have our people collaborating? How do we have our people ready? And that's what we focus. That's where we focus our attention, is what is it you want to achieve with your business and your goals for your business? And then we'll put the IT infrastructure in place, and we'll become responsible and accountable for it with a guarantee. And you guys focus on your business, and we'll focus on making sure that the technology piece works. So that's the big thing is, do we need to hire people, or can we outsource it effectively? And there are effective ways to do the outsourcing.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, the outsourcing, and I've talked to BDO like you, Chris, and your organization, and RSM and McGlad, all of them out there, and in IT. You look at it, outsourcing, accounting, IT, you name it. It seems to be a big trend right now on the small business side. I came when I was at Accenture, I was doing Fortune 100 clients, but I'm seeing small startups. Two employees, 10 employees. I don't know if that's what you're seeing too, Chris or Nick, but it's moving down to that small level where that help is required, or at least they're reaching out aggressively. Is that kind of what you're seeing, Chris or Nick? If anybody else wants to share too, I'd love to hear.
Absolutely, I'm seeing that. Yep.
That's exactly what we're seeing as well. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've owned many companies. I will never hire a full-time IT person or CFO until I reach the point of probably seriously 25 million in revenue. That's where I would think about bringing on the right people to effectively lead my company. the value that is out there with certified financial guys, there's unbelievable skills in the marketplace. And I'd rather have someone that's been doing it a long time, that's an expert CFO, and say, hey, look, what do I need you for? How much time? You tell me, let's set up an agreement, and you handle my bookkeeper or person that's going to input payables and receivables and help me figure out the right system that I should be using to make this effective. So if there's a fire, we can work from home.
Yeah, no,
So
for sure.
definitely.
Yeah, no, software as a service has been such a critical factor to that point. And we'll get into some discussions on accounting systems and the cloud and everything that you talked about, Nick. But we're seeing every week 3-4 new customers that need that help, and it's interesting to watch. And the other great feedback I know we heard now from a kind of managed service provider and from BDO. Anybody else want to kind of share their thoughts before we move on to the next slide?
Kane, it's Kim Gorman from Wells Fargo, and on the banking front, very similar to Nick's comments, we're seeing a lot of our clients really frustrated because they need more IT resources, but they don't know where to hire and who to hire. So we, on the banking front, have actually hired additional IT resources to work with their teams to help them automate their financial products and services as well, to help with the work from home. And we too are looking at our real estate and what do we need going forward? Will we have more people, more mobile, work from home part-time? And how do we best meet our clients' needs while meeting the employees' needs at the same time? So
No, that's
agree
Kim,
with
I
all
guess,
your comments.
yeah, no, it sounds like, what about on the PPP side? I would imagine well, March of last year, how was your March of last year? I'll ask that question.
How was all of second quarter was nuts. The banking environment was very unprecedented. A lot of drawdowns on facilities when people panicked that maybe their banks wouldn't be there. The PPP program was rolled out without any directions given to the banks on what the terms and the rules were going to be. So yeah, second quarter was incredibly crazy. We also did a few of the Main Street Lending Program loans within our group, and that seemed to be a little bit smoother, but very time consuming for both the banking partners and our clients. But the PPP program was a huge win for a lot of clients who might not have been able to bridge through. And we're actually talking to one right after this call today who got the money, and it's really been a life-saving, a business-saving event for them.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I mean, there's some distribution companies that we do business with that distribute food to sporting events and hospitals and other places, and everything was shut down on the sports. I mean, they've been able to get the first round and the second round, but it's tough out there. I mean, to see that. Thanks for sharing, Kim. Anybody else? I love when we talked about banking services, managed service. I don't know, anybody in financial institutions or anybody else would want to share the impact of what they've seen? Okay. All right. Good feedback. So I'm going to keep going. I love the collaboration, by the way. Let's keep doing it. I mean, the goal is to have this conversation. I think people learn more when they hear from different people too. So thanks for the three of you for sharing your thoughts. So when you think about it, from a CAS for our group, and I even think of any organization, banking, managed services, you look at it from three aspects: people, process, and technology. I always try to keep it simple that way. I mean, there's a lot of other things you can say, but how do they all work integrated together? I mean, do you have the right people that are in the seat doing the right work? I mean, are they skilled correctly? Get into personnel issues too, of course. I mean, but it's not only having the right skill, but the right attitude and to be able to do the work. Then you have the process. I mean, you think about the processes that in your organizations or even some of your clients where, is it 100% manual? I've been to some offices where it's 100% paper. I'm sure even today. I mean, I thought 20 years ago that everything was going to go digitized. And I go into organizations that they're working on ledger paper. I don't know if anybody has seen that. I'm sure Chris has. But recently, going to organization, they're all paper-based and manual and outdated, and the reporting's not good. And the way they say, well, how do you manage your business? Well, look, if I have cash in my bank account, I'm good. So I said, all right, hey, that's how you've done it. Good for you. But I don't know if that's going to work out as we look forward, especially if you need to talk to Kim, right? Kim, you're going to ask a bunch of questions and look at some applications. If you say, well, I have $20,000 in the bank and that's all I can share with you, I don't know if Kim, you're going to approve that. So as an example. And then you have the technology side. So, just talking to Nick, I mean, we're going to get into some good discussion. Maybe you'll be in my breakout session because I love technology. But how do you, I mean, the technology nowadays, 10, 15 years ago, you would deploy an SAP and Oracle and you pay $1 million in 6 months of implementation. Today, you can deploy a tool in days, hours, in weeks, and provides maybe not as robust as an SAP. And I'm not trying to say SAP is a bad application in any way, but for certain businesses, you can deploy tools in a very short period of time, and you can be up and running and get tools and reporting and see things that you've never seen before. So if you kind of put all of that together and be efficient in that, it's very hard to be efficient in all three. It is very hard. Then some good things can happen. So we wanted to spend a good portion of the rest of our discussion today to kind of go into people first, talk about it, then process, and then technology. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. And so looking at kind of now digging deep into people, we're going to just jump right into we have our first polling question. So make sure, how many staff members does your company have on its finance team? I think, Katie, you're going to post it out there. If you can please select which of the three, that'd be great. Interesting. Okay. All right. So what I'm seeing here is things are kind of fluctuating over 60, about 65% of the folks on this call, 64% specifically, you can see the results, have larger than 6 people in their back office, 18% 3 to 5, and 18%. So this is great because I think when we get into our breakout sessions, you have folks that have larger groups, some that are smaller and some are mid-sized. So maybe, I don't know, Katie, if you can do it, you can't figure out who chose what, but it'd be nice to have kind of a blend of all three on here. So, thanks for sharing that. So I wanted to have, we're going to have Stephanie, which she lives and breathes people. I mean, I think we all know, we're in the people business. If you're in the service industry, we all know that. We know how tough it is to find the right people and to motivate the people and make sure they come to work and do their job. And even more so now becomes profit. So we're going to have Stephanie talk about what she saw before the pandemic. Then she's going to talk about what she's seen during it, and then we'll have some discussion. So Stephanie, if you want to take it from here.
Thank you. Great. So yes, people, a big topic, big piece of this. What we've seen kind of prior to the pandemic, clients are saying they can't find the right staff. There was definitely a shortage of talent out there. I think there still is, but definitely pre-pandemic, lots of owners wanted higher level resources. They wanted, more information, more analysis for their business. We've seen and heard a lot of business owners who have had to take on a lot more of the, day-to-day accounting and the work on their team because they didn't have maybe the right people in the right seats. And so kind of doing more transactional work and, needing, like I said, more of the analysis and more of the information to be able to run their business appropriately. And so staffing and resources has become and was, historically a big challenge for many businesses.
Great. Yeah, and I'm just going to add is that, I think that we had a lot of clients that say that we have the staff, we're paying too much for them, they're not doing the right job. We have to jump in, we're always falling behind. So that there's always that challenge, especially when you look at an accounting, to find the right person to come in and do the work, to be able to multitask. And it'll be interesting now to watch where we're going now. So let's talk now about what you saw now with the pandemic challenges, which has kind of exacerbated what you saw before. So go ahead.
Right.
Steph.
Exactly. So we were already, seeing a lot of challenges with people, and we were already hearing from business owners that, they had those struggles. And so throw in the pandemic and obviously lots of things that had to and were affected with people. So personal life and your work life became one. You had people with, unexpected staff leaving. You've had medical issues, people who have had to, deploy different technology, as Kane had mentioned. And so now you have people who are trying to either learn this new technology or trying to, catch up to where they need. And a lot of times those aren't even the right staff, or you might need different skill sets than what you needed prior. So what we've seen is that a lot of that turns into, we need somebody right away. And so our team has really, put together sort of a process and an effort to quickly and efficiently identify those resources. And we call it rapid resourcing, which is, we're going to find you a resource, again, as long as it's within some reasonable skill set, not some unicorn that is really, really tricky to find. But, generally speaking, kind of your standard accounting and financial professionals that you would be looking for within 48 hours. So that has definitely been a challenge at different points in time to make sure that we're identifying and finding those resources quickly and efficiently. But I think, again, when you have a situation where you have something extremely urgent that needs to be dealt with, having that confidence that you can get somebody deployed or out to help in that situation within a quick turnaround makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Stephanie, is that, if I may, I don't know if there's a question first out there. I'll do it first. We've had cases, I don't know if you have on the call, where you get a 911 call on a Friday at 5 o'clock and you need to bring somebody in by Monday morning. I don't know if you've run across that, or we can't do this job anymore, I need help. So I'm just curious if you guys have, that are on the call, anybody have seen, and we'll get a little bit into discussion more on the breakout session, but have you seen this type of, hey, I need somebody within 48 hours? I'm just curious if you guys have entertained or seen that before. Anybody want to share their thoughts on that? Okay, so I'm assuming that's a yes or no, but I guess we'll find out in the breakout sessions. So I think, so just going into the process, I know you talked about that a little bit, Stephanie, but maybe you can, so how did you adapt your business? How did you adapt it to the new norm? And so maybe just share some of your thoughts with this great team that we have on the call. So.
Yes, and it has been a new process in some ways. Some things have stayed consistent, but it is important, and what we all recognize is that when you do get that 911 call, or there is an immediate need, having a nimble process, being able to move quickly and be streamlined is extremely important. And so really it's understanding the requirements that what's happening, what's going on, what are the needs, and then identifying different solutions. So that could be, we need somebody deployed and available on Monday, and within very short time frame, or we've just lost somebody, but we really want to take the time and invest in finding a permanent person. So that's going to be, again, dependent on what we hear, what we learn through that early discussion phase of what's happening, and then we'll present solutions and evaluate candidates that meet either that quick resource option or more of a longer term interview process. And then assuming that we get somebody out kind of right away, we're going to launch and kind of onboard that person as quickly as possible so that they can be on site or working remote for the business. The new process, if you will, definitely virtual interviewing. I'm sure everyone has either partaken in interviewing somebody, or maybe you've interviewed yourself for a position, but the virtual interviewing is here to stay, I think, for a while. It definitely took people some getting used to, but at the end of the day, it does work. It's not as great as being in a room with someone and having that opportunity, but it's better than, your conference calls and something a little bit more personal. And then the streamlined hiring process, we've seen where, something where it might have taken months for a company to fill a position or, run through their interview process for various reasons. Someone needs to take, you're going to need someone to take off work, or maybe they need to take a half day to come into the office. You got to arrange schedules, you got to arrange calendars. In some ways, this has actually made it more efficient and more streamlined because people can jump on a video, they can be working technically and interviewing at the same. So there's a lot of streamlining that's happened with being able to just, again, be virtual and, and respond quickly to those types of needs. And then onboarding, actually assessments, we've seen assessments have always been used, but I think they're using them more as data points and reference points to, again, try to qualify candidates, qualify hires, and make sure that they're using everything they can to make the best decision on those hiring decisions. And then onboarding, a lot of that, we were using a lot of electronic forms, but now it's really gotten to a point where it's almost 100% electronic, and that onboarding process, has become also very streamlined and efficient.
Great.
So I think with that, we were going to lead into our next breakout, or our first, I should say, our first breakout session. And what we'd like to discuss or have you keep in mind is, how are you keeping your team motivated during the pandemic? So, maybe share ideas, what's worked, maybe some things that you've heard as well, even if it's not something you're doing. And then we'll get back together, and hopefully people can share maybe some of the things that you heard in your breakout session.
And I think, Stephanie, before that, I think we're going to do one more polling question, and then we'll break into the sessions. We do have 10 minutes for this, and I know you guys want to network. Use that time to talk, and I think this is a pretty hot topic. How are you motivating your employees because during this time? And then what are you doing from a governance perspective? And use the time also to network as well. So I think you're going to post that out, Katie. I think the poll question.
That'll be before the next breakout session.
Oh, okay, perfect. I was wrong with that. So I think we're going to go in the breakout session now. So Katie, you're going to, I guess, push this in magically. We're going to go Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think we went into a bigger group. I don't know where I'm at. Maybe we're in a different group now.
Or that, or everybody hasn't left theirs yet.
Yeah, we're early.
All right,
The
well-
breakout rooms will all close in about 9 seconds, and then
Oh.
everybody will be back in this room.
Yeah, I think 6 to 7 minutes is perfect. Are we gonna do a polling question then next, or are we gonna go to process?
It's coming up in a few slides.
Okay, you have to keep me honest. All right. Everybody is back. So hopefully everybody had a good conversation and got to meet some new folks and talk about the motivation of people. It's pretty interesting conversations here. I don't know, just a couple of things on our side. Can you hear me okay, first of all? You guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. Has anybody got, so our firm has sent out packages. So we heard to a couple others within our group sending out packages home where there's like munchies, or you can make a meal and then you have a virtual happy hour. Has anybody else had that recently or in the last 6 months? I'm just curious, raise your hand. I can see some of you. Okay, yeah. So just interesting to see how you can be creative and make people feel. We had somebody actually, Erica talked about, they had somebody as a chef, like a cooking recipes actually on their cooking, and you can cook with that person if you like. So I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. Any other thoughts that anybody wants to share before going to process?
We had a fun event where we did a mixology.
Oh, cool.
And
So how did that work, I guess, Corey?
they had a professional bar mixer, what's the proper word, bartender, that runs his own company and does offsite events. And he's been very busy with COVID, hosting virtual happy hours, and even sends out a list of items so that you can join him in mixing everything up together.
That's a great idea. Anybody else have any other good ideas to share with the group?
Kane, I think one of the best ones that I had over the last couple of months was FEI's holiday dinner with Andiamos. So thank you, Avec and team. You guys did a great job with that one.
Oh, that sounds great. Anybody else want to share any interesting, any unique things that maybe we can steal and use for our team here? Right.
I don't know how unique it is, but in our Ann Arbor office, we always have a chili cook-off every year. And this year we weren't able to do that in person. So we kind of had everyone in the office, everyone was submitting their favorite chili recipes. They created a chili book out of that. And then they send out Meyer gift cards to everybody to go buy the ingredients to their favorite recipes that they wanted. So it was a good way to kind of bring everybody together.
That's a great idea, Chris. Wow.
Okay, I will also say this. I'm probably drinking more in the last 6 months than I've ever consumed alcohol in my entire life. And it's just, it's crazy. Trying wines and other kinds of mixology thing. I think am I becoming an alcoholic? I'm not, but it's just, you think to yourself, I've never consumed so much alcohol in my life. It's a weird time. It's a weird time. So you put it to the weekends now. That's the rule.
Thanks for sharing, Nick. Anybody else want to share any funny story or thing that was fun?
Well, there's just games also. You can do games on Zoom, just like we did at the FEI holiday party, but there are other games that you can do that, just for a half an hour or so and just have fun together.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, is trying to feel connected. So thanks for sharing your ideas. We're gonna keep moving because I know we've already gone 50 minutes, which is, wow, it's crazy. So we haven't even gotten to process yet. This is a 3-hour session. You guys didn't know that, did you? I'm just kidding.
3-hour tour.
All right, moving on to process. I think we have a polling question. We'll start with that. I hope I'm right this time.
You'll want to share your screen, Kane.
Oh, am I not sharing my screen? Okay, I'm sorry. Share. All right. Did that work, I hope?
Yes.
Yeah.
So which challenge is the most concerning for your company right now? And then looks like.
Now we have action. Look at this. Enough staff. Maybe because we covered the people section first, Stephanie.
Right.
We'll see.
You know, we needed an option that said all of the above.
Oh, come on, Avec, you have no problems in your organization.
I'm just talking for a friend.
Okay. All right, so I think we have, I don't know, Stephanie, do you want to read the results?
Sure. So we have 46% no time to focus on strategic work, which, as we've kind of already said, sounds pretty consistent. And then right behind that, 38%, not enough staff and lack of cross training. So again, like you said, on the people side, someone's out or medical issue or people need to quarantine or whatever. And then obviously not enough support to kind of jump back in. That makes a lot of sense. And then it looks like some smaller numbers here with 8% being desperate systems, or I'm sorry, and technology that doesn't integrate. And then a smaller 4% for slow and inaccurate financial reporting and inefficient processes that hinder growth and profitability.
Thank you. Thanks, that's interesting to see that information, and appreciate everybody sharing. So similar process we'll follow on the process side as we did in people, just to talk about the pre-pandemic, which is interesting because can you guys see my screen, by the way? Just wanted to make sure you can see the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, timely and accurate financials have always seemed to be a case that we saw a lot of, where the clients would be a month behind or they didn't have time to do it. We talked a little bit about having many different systems, so there's multiple work or repeated work that needs to be done, or even some cases the process is you have to do everything outside of the accounting system. We're using Excel. I'm sure some of you probably have been in situations or seen that before. Going back to paper-based, you know, not having efficiency, and you know, a lot of the big things that we've seen were, and I think that goes back to the no time to focus on strategic work, is that you're always playing catch up. So you got to jump in and help keep things moving, but then you lose sight of the strategic. You got to jump back strategic, and then you got to jump back tactical, and you're not able to do anything very well. Kind of looking then into after February of last year, some of the challenges that we've seen. Currently, process is not working. I mean, how do you take a paper-based process and make it remote, right? So, I mean, you take all the paper home. I mean, you can't even go in the office in some cases. I know that some people literally had to go into the office, take all their paper, go back to their home, do the work, take the work back from their home and go back in the office. I don't know if anybody has had or seen that. I've seen it. And we've talked, or in some cases there's 3 or 4 locations and they're going from one location to another. So they've taken a manual paper-based process and really just kind of moving it to the home. The other is inefficiencies that come with that. I mean, those are one of the things that I don't know if you guys have ever had a challenge with, is the governance process. If you're not seeing the folks, you don't have the same kind of management oversight. How has that impacted your productivity? I'm curious, and maybe a question you can talk about on your breakout sessions. That by working virtually, have you seen an impact on productivity and quality? Who's there reviewing it? How do you make sure that the task is being completed on time if you don't have a strong governance process? And a lot of that, as we've evolved using Zoom and others, how you're able to check with your employees and making sure that the work is being done correctly. And where before you just walk right down the hall and you have a conversation with somebody and you answer their question or you review the work. And then we talked about the falling behind just because of everything happening, not enough resources to do the work, and everything just falls behind. And this is even more important to have things being on time because of PPP and getting the application, because of having cash flow forecasting, because of being able to see where you are financially. It just kind of created that perfect storm of chaos. So when you think about, you know, when you're looking at it from a solutions perspective, and it has kind of a mix when you talk about it from technology too, is, but you know, digitalization, so how do you automate it? How do you create a process that is in the new normal to support the organizations that you come from? And how do you have the right controls? I mean, do you want people printing checks physically at home? I don't know. I mean, would you want to send all your check stock over to a home for somebody who's actually sending out checks physically? And what happens if those checks are picked up by a family member or something happens? So, you know, there's a lot of things you kind of really have to reassess with the process, and helping to alleviate that is by using workflow technology and automation to help put those controls in place so you can see that electronically than trying to have to pick up the phone and trying to call and find out where you are in the process. So it's really a different way of thinking. I know a lot of organizations were virtual too, but a lot of the small businesses that we've seen were very manual based, and it required a lot of oversight and really a change of the technology and the process for that. So anybody have any insight or anything you want to talk about process? Anybody seen having to go to the office, pick up the paper, take it back home, do the work, drop it off somewhere else? I'm just curious, has anybody seen that, or any of your organizations had to go through that transformation? Just curious.
Well, and so Kane, how are companies moving from a paper-based process to more digital? What are you seeing that companies are doing in that situation?
So I think a lot of them are using, when I talk about automation, which is technology is an enabler for the process. So I'll talk about both a little bit. But the accounts payable process is one that kind of was saying a little bit. But you may have heard of tools like Bill.com or MineralTree or Use or Chipotle. And I'm agnostic, but having those tools integrating with your ERP system, where you no longer have to print physical checks. It's all done. The disbursement process is all done. You have actually controls for approvals too, which it goes through a hierarchy for approvals and processes. Those are some of the things that organizations have been doing and have been successful deploying for that too. So I think we're now up to our next breakout session. I don't know if do we have another polling question? Just want to make sure. Yes, we do. I know. All right. Perfect timing. So we have another polling question. What process have you had to change during the pandemic? So I'm curious to see what we see here. Everything is other almost. I'm curious what the other is.
Yeah.
I'd say business development.
Okay, that's fair.
Interesting. Yeah, true.
Yeah, good point, Chris. Right.
Okay, we have our results.
Interesting. So financial
So
prep.
it looks like
Go ahead,
you
Stephanie.
said like the 67% for other. That'll be good to hear what the other is. But then next up is the 25% financial statement prep.
Yeah, great.
So,
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, curious. Besides business development, what?
Yeah, I think we lost you, Stephanie. But so what we'd like you to do, we'll take 6 or 7 minutes. I know we're already at 1 o'clock, but we'd love to. I'm curious to understand that other section. What does that mean more? And what are you doing about improving like business development, to Chris's point? So if we can, we'll break up into sessions and we'll come back in about 6 minutes from now. So thank you. All right, is everybody getting back? Let's see. I know we're back at least. Yeah, Nick, you may want to share that comment and point to the group when they get back. It's a pretty interesting comment to make. So
I'm happy to.
yeah, because I think virtual reality, you think about the video games and everything too, but you're right. It's going to be fascinating, I think, personally. So.
I think, are we all back?
No, not yet. I think people are coming back slowly, so we'll wait maybe
I
another
wish
minute.
that I wish that Zoom had a little thing when you're in a breakout room that you could
We're
hit
all
the
here.
button for an extra 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Everyone is back now.
All right. Yeah, so I hope everybody, it was a pretty interesting discussion we had in our group, and I thought let Nick kind of share some thoughts. It's kind of interesting of the evolution. So Nick, if you want to share, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, there's the head of actual Google's engineering department is a guy named Ray Kurzweil, who is the man that invented, optical character recognition. He invented the Kurzweil synthesizer. Holds a ton of patents, and he makes all these predictions based on these curves that he does on the doubling of technology, so the exponential growth rate of technology. And he made a call that in the mid 2020s, visual display technology is going to be so good that we're going to come to a point where we will not be able to distinguish real reality from virtual reality. And in a way, we were catapulted into working virtually for the first time by this pandemic, and people are figuring it out and we're making it work. As you said, business development, there are a lot of things that are challenging. However, if we were really unable to distinguish real reality from virtual reality, the consequences of that are, look what's happening to office space now with people working from home. If we can't tell the difference between real and virtual reality, what's that going to do to the travel industry? What's it going to do to the automobile industry, vacations? It's serious in business. It's going to be significant. So I just think it's an interesting idea to contemplate.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to share any comments or interesting things that you've learned in the breakout session? All right. I will keep moving. I know we have one more breakout session. I know it's after 1, so appreciate everybody staying. So we're going to talk about technology, which is kind of what Nick was talking a little bit about. And I think we have a polling question too right now to start. We'll see if the other category seems to become popular on this call. So we'll see if that's, we're going to have to put more items, multiple choices next time. All right. 71% is other.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Do you want to share the results, Stephanie?
Sure. So same, very high percentage. Like you said, we need to break out that other category. We have 71% that said other, and 14% on QuickBooks. And we have 10% of for Sage Interact. So yeah, curious if anyone wants to share just a couple of the other category, what you're seeing, or if there's any bigger one that we missed in our other choices.
Yeah. Yeah, and if not, we can do it in the breakout session. So yeah, interesting. I'm sure there's a couple non-for-profits on here because Financial Edge, we know that.
Right.
So let's just jump into the slides and we'll get back into our breakout session. So just move on. We've kind of already, the neat thing is we already covered a lot of these things, but manual processes, when you go to a client and the system's no longer supported, a lot of the clients weren't remote access, lack of image repository, everything's paper-based. So, technology, and I'm talking more to the small mid-sized market. In the last year, there's been such an embracement of the cloud and where things are heading toward. But I'm just going back, let me see, the pandemic changes. We kind of grouped it into 3 different categories: is the accounting technology, and there's a lot of other things beyond accounting, but just to stay focused for what we have right now, unable to access systems remotely, system performance issues. I don't know if you're in your office in a physical process, and I know Nick would know this, and then you go remotely and you have all these people hitting the site remotely and it's real slow. So that's for people like, why can't I move to the next page, or why can't I process that work? The security aspect, that's one of the biggest things. So if you think about phishing and everything else that's going on today in today's world, people are are breaking into our government, voting, you know, other things like that, as you hear in the paper, but security challenges. So if you're working remotely, how do you know that when you're accessing confidential information in an accounting system or another system remotely, that you have the right firewalls, you have the right processes and the controls in place? And then lastly, lack of automation. You just have many different systems that don't talk to each other. You have an HR system over here, you have an accounting system over here, you got a payroll system, and they don't talk to each other, and you end up having to enter information 3 times into 3 different systems. So big challenges causing a lot of pain for clients, and I'm sure for some of you on this call. You know, just some solutions, you know, migrating to the cloud, you know, deploying AI. You hear about robotic process automation. You talk about open architecture. How do you find a tool that's open, meaning that it can integrate with different tools, such as a Bill.com or a ChargeBee or a Mineral Tree, or you go down the list of all the technology tools that are out there. But you know, how do you find those tools? And what we've seen too, and I'm sure a lot of you can get almost a 30% improvement in productivity by having better technology and ever better processes. So a lot of activity on the technology front, and just kind of listing some technology solutions. And Steve, I'm really interested to see the others, as Stephanie said, but just a list of the accounting systems, and there's hundreds of them. I just threw a couple out here. We're agnostic, so I'm not trying to endorse one or the other. Same thing for point solutions. You know, these are different technologies that integrate with them, and it's really finding the right technology for yourself or for for your clients, so that they can do what they want. You have a lot of consolidation tools out there, like ConventSheet for if you're on QuickBooks. You have Blackline, which is a robust reconciliation close management tool that works for larger organizations, and everything in between. So, you know, technology, I think, is an area that I've seen personally a lot of growth in, where organizations have made that jump, and instead of being complacent, I don't know if I want to do it, I'm going to wait till next year. You probably hear that. Now they want to do it now. So there's been a really big change and shift in moving forward with technology. Okay. I know I wanted to be quick because I know we're already at 1:13. So we have another breakout. Maybe we'll keep it to 6 minutes. And maybe we talk about what is your technology stack? Have you made any changes, and maybe kind of talk about the others? And have you seen improvements? Has your organization actually gone through and made changes in technology since February of 2020? So we'll take about 6 minutes, and then we'll circle back and we'll finish things off. Thank you. All right, everybody's coming back, I think. Just Katie, let me know when we're all back.
Everyone is all back now.
All right, and they're still smiling. We're on the home stretch. All right, we're almost there. So I know we have only 10 minutes, but I don't think I'm going to take all of it. We'll just go through some slides. Was anything interesting I just wanted to ask on discussion for technology? In our breakout session, it seemed like everybody, there was no change in technology. It was more on the people and process side. So I'm just curious if anybody wants to share anything that was interesting or what the other meant. Don't all talk at once. All right, I know. All right. So I guess we'll continue to move on. You're just kind of at the home stretch, from a finance and accounting side, making sure that, as we talked about, you have to have the right people, the right process, and the right technology in place. Key things. How do you set expectations with your clients or with your employees? You think of KPIs, key performance indicators, and governance. Those things are very important in process improvement. I think now's the time for your organization or for organizations you work with is to really take a step back and look at the as-is process and kind of determine what the to-be will be as the future. We talked about automation and how there's different tools out there that you can leverage if you're not leveraging today, or you can share with people that need help and to help make things better. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is using the tools that you have to free up capacity to get out of the details and let's think more strategically. I think that's where we saw in that one poll that I think most of you just don't have the time to think strategically. And even myself, is how do you put yourself in a position that you have time to think of the future 3 months, 6 months down the road, where your organization wants to go. You're optimizing yourself and you're improving the experience. So, how are your relationships with your customers or with your suppliers? And I think that's all changed too. We were talking about how some of us have new clients that you've never met in person. Right? It was all done virtually. I mean, I think most cases in the past, you literally get together, meet with them, and then go through a contract. But helping to improve those efficiencies and to create that optimization that you need is very critical. Just some of the industries, just quickly to touch upon. We've seen, for UHY specifically, not-for-profits, retail, healthcare, and family office are a lot of some of the key industries that we're in. All industries are requiring help, especially the non-for-profits we're seeing too in healthcare and retail on the food side. Really looking, the full-service restaurant groups, I think we all know are struggling. How do you get them to get over, get the PPP money to be able to keep them efficient and afloat so they can stay in business when things happen and get back to the new normal. Just a couple case studies. I'm not going to bore you on that because of timing. But just in a simple recap, I think it's simply, for me, it was enjoyable to get to meet all of you today, and the interaction I think was great. And to just kind of take a step back, it makes me kind of think about the last year and reflect on what's happened, and hopefully we look ahead in the future and we see, it's bright for everybody on this call, and we all move into a good position where kids can go back to school. Our dogs maybe not be as happy anymore because they see us all the time, but to be able to be in a position that we can help our companies and help our clients and help them grow. So from that said, I think we're going to conclude. I don't know, Stephanie, if there's anything that you wanted to add. I know we're running out at the end, but if there's anything else you want to say before we close the conversation.
No, I think that's good, and appreciate everyone's time. If there's any other last questions, we maybe have a minute, but appreciate everyone's contribution and the discussions. I know I enjoyed the breakout sessions were really interesting to hear some things that are going on in other people's lives and businesses and even in personal life, what's happening. So appreciate all the contribution from everyone.
And if there's no other questions, sorry, go ahead, Heather, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say thank you. It was a great presentation. I appreciated it.
Oh, great. Thank you. I know, Katie, there's a couple other housekeeping things at the end too, but does anybody have any other question? Hopefully, I think Interactive, we really enjoyed it too. So Stephanie echoed, I really enjoyed hearing from everybody, and hopefully it was good for you as well.
No, so Kane, could you unshare your screen so that we can see everybody?
Oh,
And-
sure.
Yes, in just a second, we have one more polling question left
Right.
before we go. We want to make sure that everyone's able to get their CPE credits, and then this also helps us to continue to improve your FEI experience by hearing more about what's working and what's the greatest benefit for you. So if you could take a second and answer the polling question. Perfect. Thank you so much. And then we can do a group shot. It's always nice if we're able to capture